Dr. Pang considers the ENT to be the most refined Qi in the universe. What is the ENT exactly? And how do we cultivate it to take charge of our health and our lives? Often called the energy of the brain, it is also the source of paranormal abilities, which, taking a closer look, are more normal than we might think. Katrin Hendricks has explored the power of the ENT and its role within Qigong. My name is Torsten Lüdecke, and this is the Wisdom Qigong podcast.
First of all, hi Torsten, nice to meet you again. And we will talk about EUNT. Yes, you asked me that we should have a conversation about it. Well, EUNT is the energy of our brain. In Qigong, we work with energy, and we have energy in our body, all over, inside, outside, but we have a particular sort of energy in our brain. And Dr. Pang, who developed Qigong, he called that the EUNT. So that's the energy of our brain, and it's a very special sort of energy. It's a very refined, very subtle, also very intelligent form of energy. What humans have, animals apparently don't have that kind of energy.
All right. So if you say what human has, that automatically takes me to, well, maybe it's got something to do with consciousness, because now obviously our consciousness is on a higher level than that of plants or of animals. So am I correct to say that?
Yes, it is also the energy of our consciousness, and we can develop that consciousness. We can be not so conscious that we have a consciousness that we can develop. So it's the place in our brain, is a very special space, and that's called the pineal gland. But in that space, we have our consciousness.
And how does this connect to the EUNT?
Well, it is called the EUNT. When we go back to the theory of Dr. Pang, so he described the three layers. We have our body, the form, then we have the Qi in our body. That's the Qi layer. And then we have the information level, and that's our consciousness. And the energy of our consciousness is EUNT. And with EUNT, we can manage so many things. With our EUNT, with the energy of our brain, we can manage our life on the three levels. We can manage our body level, our Qi level, and even consciousness level itself. Because with EUNT, we can observe. We can observe, and we can observe in a very clear way, so that what we observe, we can interpret, and then we can store the information. We can do so many things with the EUNT, with the energy of our brain. Was that a bit an answer to your question?
Yes. I mean, you said it very nicely when you said the EUNT is the energy of the brain. Now, but what does it mean exactly? I mean, how do I use that, or how do I cultivate that in daily life?
Okay, then we are going to speak about the reference framework. When we are born, we experience so many things, and we form our reference framework. How we are going to think about life, how we are going to judge, to analyze things, that's all part of our reference framework. And what we experience in life forms our reference framework. And our EUNT, when we are born as a baby, our EUNT is pure. We are born with a pure EUNT, but then we grow up, we experience a lot of things, and we form our reference framework. For instance, we experience something and we get angry, or we get sad, or we judge in a very negative way. That's our reference framework. A baby can't do that yet. If we are conscious of our reference framework, we can develop our EUNT to become pure again, and not to be dependent anymore of our reference framework. Because if we live And that's the daily part of Zhineng Qigong. We can do Zhineng Qigong, we can learn about the theory, we can do the methods of Zhineng Qigong, but the purpose of Dr. Pang also was to develop our own life, to go to a higher level of our way of living. So if we are conscious of our reference framework, how we act, how we feel, how we think, how we observe so many things, if we are conscious about that, then we can develop our EONT to become pure again.
Let me try to put it in my words, because
Yes.
I think I understood what you mean. What you call the reference framework is basically, based on our experience as a kid or when we grow up, we form certain ideas and certain beliefs about how the world works. And then we tend to see everything that happens through these ideas, through these beliefs. So that's our reference framework. This is the reason why I see the world different than you do, and that one of our listeners will do, because they have a different experience.
Yes.
Now, what you're saying is that when we are born, the energy of the brain, the EONT, is pure, because there is no such thing as a reference framework. We don't, when we perceive things, we don't put this filter on. Right? So it is very pure, and over time we build up this reference framework. And the way to get back to the purity is to become aware that we are doing this, to become aware of what is my reference framework actually. Because if I can see that, then I can kind of put it aside and say, okay, I'll put it aside, and then the whole chattering in my mind, the whole thoughts that come in and out, I'll just put them aside, and I can open up to the pureness of this brain force energy of the EONT. Right? Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's very true, and that's not easy. It's a process, because you say you put your reference framework aside, but that's not so easy, because all these patterns are very inherent in our brain, in our way of thinking, in our way of living, in our way of feeling. So that's why they say the daily life is a best tool and test to get to know your reference framework. If you experience something, how do you react? What are your emotions? What are your thoughts? So it's through daily life that you can see clear in your reference framework. And Torsten, we have two things there. We spoke now about being born with a pure EONT, the reference framework we develop in our life. So if we look at the world, if we look at ourselves, our observation is not pure and clear anymore, because we have this reference framework. And that's one part of our EONT. We can be conscious of it and start to develop our EONT to become pure and clear again. But then that's one part. And then you have another part. As to me, I feel it that way. You have the EONT you can develop, because your EONT is able to get in information. That is what you see, what you feel. This information comes through your senses. That's information that comes into your brain, into your EONT. And then you can develop your EONT to go a level higher, and to develop your EONT to become paranormal. And that's another part of our EONT. So we are born with an EONT, the potential of our brain. And that's our nervous system, that's our logical thinking. That's one part of our EONT, that we can make sure it stays pure and clear. That's one part. But Dr. Pang also has this layer in his consciousness theory, that you can develop your EONT even to that high level, that you get paranormal abilities. And that's a second life system. We have our first life system in using our nervous system, in using our senses to get information. And that's how EONT works. The energy of our brain gets in information, we reflect on it, and then we get our reference framework, and we can try to make our reference framework pure again. But you have a second layer in the EONT, and that's how to develop your EONT, that you get paranormal abilities.
My name is Leila Cupido, and I'm the project manager of the Students Hub. Our team is constantly adding events, teachers, videos, and other resources to take your practice to the next level, improving the quality of your life and the life of the people around you. We do this work for you, so please use it. Hun Yuan Ling Tong.
That is a very interesting topic. I'd like to put it aside just for a moment. We're going to tackle it. We're going to tackle it in a second. I'd just like to go back to when you talk about the daily life, because as you said, when I said it's easy, you just put the reference framework apart. You said it's not that easy because so many things are unconscious. We don't even know we are doing these things. So then you said that the daily life is the best teacher. And I think what you mean, if I understood that correctly, is say I'm driving the car and the person in front of me doesn't move, although the light has changed to green, and I'll get angry or upset about it. This is something to observe, right? This is to observe, to see, okay, what am I actually thinking? What is my emotion? Because that is all part of the reference framework. This is me repeating what I've learned over the years over and over and over again, which is always the same thing, which is the filter that actually is the way I see life, and that is which makes it impossible to have the pureness of the ERP, right? So this is what you spoke about, because it's actually simple on one level, because all I need to do is to observe, but it's everyday situations where I can really learn about myself. Now, how comes I'm doing this? How comes I react this way or that way? No? And no matter what I come up with, this observation will tell me what my frame of reference is. And then I'm aware, and then it's a little easier to put it aside. It's still not easy, but it's a little easier, right?
Right.
Okay, cool.
Now, Torsten, may I add something to your example? Because it's very well chosen example. You are there in front of the traffic lights, it becomes greens, the car in front of you doesn't start immediately, and you get angry. If your EONT is pure, you are very patient, you understand the person for you, maybe is distracted or I don't know, and you wait. And if you are standing there for 5 minutes, then you can use your horn, perhaps. But if your EONT is pure, you just wait. You don't act immediately angry or whatever you could act in what way. So that's observing your EONT, that's observing the old patterns. Maybe there was one reason in the past why you became impatient and got angry. And that's a pattern that developed, and that pattern gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So if you meet a particular situation the same as the one who made you angry and impatient, you get impatient again. And observing that you get impatient and that you get angry is a first step in your process to make your reference framework purer and purer.
Absolutely.
And in the end, if you have this situation 100 times, you will be there and waiting and be patient.
Now, I'm taking this a step further now, because often it's not just, oh, there was one incident in traffic where I experienced this and I became impatient and now I'm repeating it. It might go much deeper than that, and I might learn much more about that, because it might just be that I enjoy pointing out when somebody else is wrong. Now, I'm talking about myself here because I noticed that about myself. Now, in traffic as well, somebody makes a mistake. Might not even be affected by it, because I see it and I can stop. I would still like to push the horn just to let them know they made a mistake. So it's then I can learn about my righteousness. How I enjoy to be right about things. And whenever I see someone else doing a mistake, I'll point that out to these people. While if it's me that does the mistake, I'm like, why are you getting so upset about it? It's just a simple mistake. So all of these things is something I can learn about myself, right?
Yes.
So it might go much deeper, and I might have to explore much deeper to see, okay, why am I actually doing this? What's behind that? And where else do I see it in my life? And then I can learn about my reference framework.
Right.
Cool. Now let's move one step further, because you really made me curious when you mentioned paranormal abilities. I mean, that sounds spooky. And the first thing that I would like to say there is, I personally think, and I might be completely off what everybody else thinks in the Jin Qigong world, I personally think it's the wrong expression, because it is actually not really, supernatural or paranormal. It's actually a skill that we all have when we are born. We just need to cultivate that, but there's nothing spooky about it. So I think that's something to keep in mind when we talk about paranormal or supernatural. It's not some hocus pocus. It is something that's been there all along. So let's talk a little bit about that. Now, how do you cultivate your Yuan Qi in a way that you can develop these skills and these abilities?
Yes, Torsten, I agree with you that it's not paranormal, because everyone is born with these abilities, with this potential. Everyone has it. But we forget about it because we are trained to live based on our five senses. And that's why Dr. Pang calls the nervous system and the five senses the first life system. We are born and our senses start to work, and that's how we interact with the world in first place. But the second life system is what is called the paranormal abilities. But as you say, it is not spooky at all, because we all have it, and that's the potential of the Yuan Ti, of the energy of our brain. The Yuan Ti, if we develop the Yuan Ti, we can develop these paranormal abilities. And then we have to develop what's called the third eye. But the third eye is really in our brain. That's our third eye. That's the sense that can see and feel and hear information that we don't catch with our five senses. So if we manage to activate certain energy points and energy gates and channels to the place where Yuan Ti in our brain is, we can activate these. How we are going to call it, because paranormal is not a right word. It is not paranormal. It is in fact normal, but we don't activate it. And when we can, and in Jin Qigong there are methods to activate these energy points, these channels. These are important points. The top of our head, Bai Hui, and this part of our head, Tianmen, our gate to heaven, and Yin Tang, what is also called third eye. If we can activate and open these points, and there are channels from the universe through these points to our pineal gland, and from the universe down to our pineal gland. If we are able to activate these points, to open them and to activate the channels, we can activate the paranormal abilities. Perhaps we should find another word for paranormal.
I think we made it clear that we don't really think it's paranormal, so we can use the word. Don't worry about that.
Okay, yes.
Good.
Yeah, because it's normal. Everybody has the ability to use this potential. Everybody can develop this potential.
Now let's talk. Before we go, you said there are some methods, and I want to go into that a little later, when we talk about, okay, what methods are there in Jin Qigong to open up that possibility. But before we do that, let's just slowly move into what are these abilities that we are talking about. Now, I would like to something that comes to mind to me is sometimes when I'm sitting here in a podcast, I say the most amazing things, and I don't even know where they come from. And what I've learned from Qigong teachers is this is actually my Yuan Ti connecting with the information that is already out there, so I can kind of perceive certain things without a massive thinking before, or a big thinking process. I don't figure it out beforehand. It just comes to my mind. I'll channel it, and then I'll put it out through my mouth. And I think we all have these experience, somewhere in our life, where we say things where we say, wow, that was actually quite something. I didn't even know I knew that. right? And now this is, I think, is a simple example of where our refined brain energy, the E1T, is actually connecting to all the information, all the wisdom that is there, because, you know, it is, we are talking about oneness in Qineng Qigong. And if it's all one, it means there is, you know, we can connect to this information and we can channel it through us. So that would be for me, you know, something that I know from everyday life. Is that an example?
Yes, that's true, Torsten.
Good.
That's also a part of E1T, that you can receive the information, that you pick up the information in the big Qi field.
Great. Give me more examples, please, Katrin. What else would be these abilities? How else would that show?
Oh, you gave a very good example. You say things that you would normally don't say and don't know. So you pick up information. And another way of using this ability is when you see a person and you don't know a person, but you know that person is, for instance, you feel sadness in the person. You feel a whole cloud of sadness around the person. He hasn't even said a word, but you know he is sad. That's also picking up the information.
Right.
And that's the ability of the E1T to pick up information from a person, from the Qi field that is around us. We have Qi in our body, but there is also Qi around us, far away into the universe, and you are able to pick up that information.
Right.
And some people are even that good that they pick up the right information on the right moment. And then you have a very good ability to use.
Yes. And as far as I understand, it goes both ways. So I can pick up the information, but I can also send information using my E1T.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which is basically the principle of distance healing. I couldn't do distance healing if I couldn't use my E1T and send this information, this healing information, you know, to someone else or to a group of people.
Yes. An example of that is that you see, for instance, a person and you feel that he is uncomfortable in a situation, in a group of people. So you can send with your E1T, you can send the information to that person to calm down and to comfort him. And then you see that person can relax. Right. So the information, you sent the information, it's okay. So calm down. You can be comfortable in the situation. And the person received the information. It's also possible that the person is in a shutdown, that he doesn't get the information. But if you send it in a very subtle way, there is a big chance that the person will be open for that information.
Now, let me just see whether I got that right. What you're talking about now is like you're sitting there in a one-on-one situation and you can see the other person is struggling with something or is very nervous or is anxious or something like that. That without saying a word, just by using your E1T, you're sending the information of peace, of everything is good, everything works out fine, or whatever the information is. And that has an impact on that person and you can see a shift in his or her behavior. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, but you can also do it with a person in a group. When you are in a group of, for instance, 20 people, and you notice there is one person who's not feeling comfortable, you can send that information too, and then you're not in a one-to-one situation.
Now, I love that because this is something that we can all practice and we can all experience for ourselves. Now, this is not a complex exercise. We are always together with people, maybe if it's just in a coffee shop and I see a couple fighting with each other over coffee and being all upset with each other, I can send peaceful information, right? And I can see the impact that my sending has. So it's a beautiful experiment to do, for the listeners, because it's so simple to do.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. And it's also a question of practice because, the more I do that, the more I get comfortable with it, the better I become and the more powerful I become doing these things, right?
Yes. Yes, and these are very nice exercises. They make you happy. If you can see that it works, it makes you happy.
Yes.
But Torsten, I want to go a bit further and a bit deeper in the matter, because now we are doing easy things. In fact, everything is easy if you train it, but you can use that E1T to heal yourself and to heal people.
Please talk more about that.
We already talked about receiving information and sending information, but you can use your EONT if you train it enough, if you train these channels enough, you can use the information to heal people. If people are ill, they have complaints, they have pain, I don't know what, you can send information to those places of that person to heal the person. And then you use your EONT to heal as a healing method. But the condition is that your mind is very clear and very stable. If we are in our reference framework, for instance, and we want to heal a person, then it is our ego that plays a role. And ego is not good in using your EONT. Your EONT should be very pure, very calm, very stable. I can send information, and if it works, it's okay. If it doesn't work, it's not my fault. It's not because I'm not good enough, because I'm not strong enough. There are so many more conditions at stake.
Right.
So if you want to use your EONT to heal yourself or to heal other people, you should do it in a very calm, stable, pure and clear state, independent of your own reference framework.
Right. Right. And even outcome independent in a way, because
right? Yes.
You're just doing it with the best intention. And
yes.
Whatever the result is the result, but you're not invested in it because that is the ego. And that moment the ego kicks in, then you're no longer in a pure state. I mean, it's impossible to be in a pure state, right? Now, this is obviously very tricky for a lot of us that are working in Qin and Qigong, because now we're a teacher, we are a healer. So obviously we're looking at the outcomes, but that is in our way to be successful at the end of the day.
Yes. Torsten, and what comes up now is that we are talking about the EONT. A lot of people are doing Qineng Qigong and doing methods not knowing about this force of EONT. So it's very important, it's very good that we talk about EONT. So people get to know this part of our brain we can use to do with all these things. And let's call them paranormal again, but as we already said, it's not paranormal. But people who are doing Qineng Qigong, who practice Qineng Qigong, should be aware of the force we have in our brain, in our EONT.
Right.
Because even if we do methods in Qineng Qigong, we can use our EONT to do the methods on a deeper level, on a more effective level. And then we also use our EONT to observe in a very clear and stable way on how are we doing the methods, how is the qi in our body, how is the qi around us. Can we manage with EONT our methods of Qineng Qigong? And that was also the aim of Dr. Pang. He wanted us to develop our EONT, just to use it in daily life. If we are standing at a traffic light, that we are aware of how we behave, how we feel, how we think, how we do our methods of Qineng Qigong. And if we go deeper in the matter, then we can use EONT to heal people, to heal ourselves, to heal people. It's not just using our EONT is not just to heal and to be paranormal, but we can use it in daily life.
Right.
And that's so beautiful. That's also the 3-layer theory of Dr. Pang. We have our body, we have our qi, and we have our consciousness. Right. And with our consciousness, we can manage our whole life, our daily life, our relationships, doing Qineng Qigong, doing healings, and so on and so on.
Because the consciousness level is the information level, right?
Yes.
And the information level is what kind of directs and organizes the other two levels, the energy, the chi, and the form. It's like an instruction manual of IKEA. If you have to build up a chair, the information is the instruction manual how to do it. So that is the secret. Without the instructions, you wouldn't know how to organize the level of substance or the energy level. So that's why the information is so important, and why the information is the key to everything else, and that is the consciousness, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, and people who are not aware of their EONT will buy something in IKEA, not using the manual, put it together, and it's not good.
Well, truth is, at IKEA, even with the manual, you're at a high risk of not getting the right result, but that's another story, right?
Yes.
All right, Katrin, the next thing that I'd like to explore is the methods, because you said in Qin and Qigong, we have certain methods that are focusing on cultivating and sharpening the EONT. What methods are we using in Qin and Qigong?
We can use sounds. We can use sounds to open the channels, to go to a very deep relaxation, to go to get your mind very pure and clear. And for instance, you have the sound N, just N. It's not even, N doesn't even have a meaning, but it's just the sound, is the vibration that works in places where you use N. You can use N in your brain, you can use N in your chest, you can use N in your hips, you can use the vibration of N everywhere to open spaces, to make the energy more subtle, more pure. N is a very, very good sound to go to a deep relaxation and to make your space and your mind pure. Or you have Shu, X, U, and it has a meaning. The meaning of Shu is, it's the vibration, but it's also the meaning making your chi more transparent, more refined, more pure. So if you use these sounds, N or Shu, and you can pronounce them with a louder voice or even without voice, you can whisper the Shu. The more silent you pronounce the sounds, the higher level you reach. The more sound you use, the more physical your chi level is. So these sounds are very powerful, the N and the Shu, and you should do them. You should experience yourself if you say them fast, if you say them slow, if you say them loud, if you say them very silent, if you even only think the sounds. It's such an interesting exercise to do.
Really, what we're talking about, chanting in the broader way of things, and we know that chanting is a pillar in many spiritual practices. Now, it's not something that just we're doing in Qin and Qigong.
No.
But it's interesting that you say this is not about chanting it as loud as possible. It's actually the opposite. You can really do it very subtle and to have the same effect. Now, at the same time, my question to you is. This is a great tool to cultivate the EONT,
yes.
But it's not a necessity. So I can cultivate my EONT without ever having chanted these sounds, right?
Yes.
Yes. So it's basically a way to help me get to that state of leaving the frame of reference behind. It's to purify my EONT, to get connected with my EONT and then connect to the outside information. So it's like a tool I can use to help me get there, but it's not the way to get there, right?
You say a very beautiful word. Torsten, you say connected. Helps me to connection. That's a very beautiful word, because you get in connection with yourself, with your deep self. You get in connection with the chi field, with the information of the chi field. You can live and be out of connection with yourself. You can live and be out of connection with the people around you, or you can live in deep connection with yourself.
Yes.
And then we speak about the true self. Oh, the true self is also in our EONT. If you go to a very pure state of EONT, you meet your true self.
Absolutely, because all the clutter is gone, right?
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
this is the same thing, one might say, the true self and having a truly cultivated ENG is the same thing at the end of the day.
Yes.
All right. Well, that was a very interesting conversation. I'm glad we picked this topic, Katrin.
Yes, me too, Thorsten. Yes.
You look like you wanted to add something to the conversation, or
yes, I was thinking what else we could add, because there is a lot to say. There is much more to say about EONT. But what I'm thinking about is what can we add that is very interesting for all the people who listen to the podcast. If you are doing Qineng Qigong or not doing Qineng Qigong, what is so important? What's the point of our conversation? Is it that if we develop our pure consciousness, if we see through our reference framework, that we go to a better life? Perhaps that is the clue.
yes, yes.
And it's a lot of theory. There is a lot of methods, but the aim is just to have a better life in daily life, to go deeper in your Qineng Qigong experience, to have better relationships. I think that's also an important part of this EONT theory. Dr. Pang also wanted to create an harmonious world, harmonious people, harmonious relationships. And that's through developing our EONT, developing our consciousness.
Absolutely, and it's fascinating how no matter which angle we come from, also here in the podcast, we always come to the same conclusions. At the end of the day, no matter how complex the theories are and how complex the methods are and all of the things we're talking about, we're talking about the same thing at the end of the day, right?
Yes.
And this is about connecting back with our consciousness to the oneness. And if we have the oneness, it means we are connected, and it means we are coming from a peaceful state. We are coming from a state of goodwill towards others and the rest of the world. And that is who we really are. But now we are back to the true self. And so it's really not so complex after all. And there are many ways, many angles we can take to get there. And I think the idea and the concept of the ENG is a great one, because for some people, this might be the path to get there. Others might take a completely different road. And either way, it's great, because we're talking about the same thing here.
Hey, Thorsten, so nice, this conversation. Thank you so much, really.
I have to thank you, Katrin. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm so glad you're in my life and you're part of this community. So let me thank you once again for sharing what you have to share, and and I look forward to another episode with you maybe later this year, right?
The pleasure is all mine. Thorsten, thank you so much.
We trust you enjoyed this conversation, and we invite you to subscribe to our podcast so we can stay in touch and notify you of future episodes. We will end today's episode with the 8 verses meditation performed by Qineng Qigong teacher Katrin Hendricks. Enjoy.
Ding Shin Chong Ma
To get your free ebook on the 8 Verses meditation, please check the show notes below.